something that fascinates me with audio and just in general, microphones, microphone placement, how to get the best possible sound for any given source. It's a fascinating subject. Back in the day when you had less tracks available to you, like a tape machine with a few tracks, it was a total science figuring out where to put the mic to get the best sound. And when you have other things in the room, you have variables you have to contend with. So it became, the whole thing is a brilliance to which mic you choose for what given situation, and how do you face it, where's the pattern that it's picking up, where's the null point in the mic. These are things that audio engineers are thinking about when they're placing mics. It's not a random thing. If there's more things than one thing interacting, it becomes extremely important. So just let's open the door to understanding mics a little bit. The different types of mics that you're going to have most of the time: dynamic, condenser, ribbon. For the most part, if you just understand those three, you'll be understanding the majority of what a microphone is and what it does and what it can capture. So with a dynamic mic, it's really picking up more of a directional thing, because the polar pattern is such where it's only picking up in front of it. I'm going to show you a diagram. Everything you're looking at with the inside of the lines is the part that it's picking up. Whatever is not in that area is the null points in the mic. So what this means is you put that mic positioned in such a way where if you have two sources you're trying to capture, well, one of them that you're trying to capture is in front of the mic, but if there's another source and you want to record them at the same time, make sure the null point of that other mic is pointed at the source you don't want it to hear, and make sure the point of the mic's pointing at the source you do want it to hear. Don't just willy-nilly put the people, don't just sit them down randomly and make this not make sense. It needs to make sense. So you make it make sense with the null points of the mics so that you're getting more of what you want and less of what you don't in any given mics. And that will allow you to record more sources at once and still maintain some isolation. Now, counter to that, if you want to record the whole room, you would use a condenser mic, not a dynamic, and you'd want an omnidirectional capsule. You'd want a capsule that incorporates the entire room. Now, with condensers, they make them where you can control the pattern. You can make it tight cardioid. You can open it up to figure eight. You can make it omnidirectional. Depending on the mic you have, there's these polar pattern options. So you use the omnidirectional when you're trying to get everything all in a circle. Like, let's say you got a bunch of a cappella singers. You put the mic in the middle, everybody gets around it, and then it should get a nice balance. The people that are lower instruments should probably be closer because their bass frequencies don't carry as well. So put them closer to the mic. The people that have the more abrasive mid-range tones, put them slightly further away, but it's a balancing act. This is the same thing that happens with bands. You do the same exact concept when you're placing if you're recording a band live in a room, you have to do that. You can't not think about that. But if you're recording a band separately, everybody's separate times, you don't have to think about this as much unless you're using multiple mics on one source. So the video I saw today that was absolutely mind-blowing, it was on Produce Like a Pro, Moses Schneider. I've never heard of this technique before, but what a brilliant idea. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've learned from a lot of people, and nobody's told me this technique I just learned. The idea here is that to get the best room sound possible on drums specifically, but I can imagine this works on a variety of sources where the same concepts are going to apply. But on drums, what you're always dealing with when you record rooms and you put the room mics far away or behind a gobo or behind a wall, or you're going for the bottom thing or whatever, you can get a big drum sound by using those type of mics also for your sound, right? In addition to your close mics and your overheads. But there's always a flamming thing happening because the sound's getting to these mics much later than it's getting to the close mics. So you have to kind of deal with that and make it not be an issue with time adjustment, etc., in order to make it work. But I find that to be a bit of a pain, but I still do it because there's no really other option to get that huge, big sound. You got to figure that out. Otherwise, it's floppy. It's like a blah, 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 every time. It's a flam. So, that instead of getting the flam noise, try this. You take 2 mics, put them so that like like if you put your drums in the corner of the room and you got that big main crash cymbal that's near the, the rack tom, you put dynamic mics you put a dynamic mic with a hypercardioid pattern. So what he wants is to get the reflection off the wall. He puts them facing away from the drum kit, but he puts the cymbals in the null position of the mics. It makes so much sense. And then he puts 2 of them there. He doesn't put 1, he puts 2. So like, I mean, he could put 1, but he shows it in stereo also. And he shows that you could split them out a little, or you could keep them kind of tight. But in my eyes, he's putting kind of both mics where, like, if you have 2 cymbals, put them kind of where the null point is at, is where the cymbal is on both. Like, that seems to make sense. Although it seemed like he was putting that main crash cymbal, he's got that 1 mic there, and then he's sort of, a little bit over to the right. I don't know if he was really focused on the null point of the other cymbal, but that's the idea. In my eyes, you go null point, and it makes so much sense. You won't get the cymbals. You'll get the reflections off the wall, but because the mic is so close to the drums, it's like you're not going to hear a flam because it's only so far. It's not as far away as the room mics would be. So in other words, when the snare hits from the drummer hitting the snare drum, it's close enough to that mic because it's right in front of you. It's just facing the other way with the null point at the cymbals. So because it's right there, you're not going to hear a flam, but you'll get all that amazing room. What a brilliant idea. Why did I think of this? Why has nobody ever told me this? I haven't heard it. Anyway, this is very cool. I dig this, and I'm going to try this out immediately, and I'm going to let you know how that sounds. But it seems like a similar result to what I'm used to, just a much quicker, much easier way. And the less you have to do in general, the better things usually sound. The less you do to it, And I'm not talking about effects and ear candy and cool stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just when you're trying to make something sound good. If you have to put 100 things on it, it's not as usually good at the end as if you had to put 1 thing and it's great already. Bang. It's just, in my opinion, the less you do, the better, usually. So it's an approach. But you guys got this. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. The less you can do to make something great, power to you. So this idea, I cannot wait to try it. That guy had a ton of ideas in that video, so I recommend watching that video. But I'm definitely gonna try any of his ideas. He had another one with a stereo snare idea. I grasped it. He's talking about putting 2 mics, omnidirectional mics, down on the ground under the snare drum. So we're talking underheads, not overheads. Like overhead mics you're used to. Underheads, like on the floor. Like, we've heard of miking 2 sides of a drum before. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about on the floor, but the same distance from the snare to the kick on both of the mics, and that's picking up his, a stereo picture of his drums under there, and it's this awesome way to get less cymbals, and it sounds like that could be killer. I can't wait to try that. He calls it Snario. The guy's gangster. This guy is killer. I mean, he's really awesome. This guy's killer. Great video. I don't know why I'm not, aware of this guy and his techniques and how amazing he is, but I'm so glad I am now. That's amazing. Very grateful for this information age myself. And I do this, but learning is critical. Every day you should learn something new with this stuff. That's why don't clown on anybody who watches this stuff, all these channels. We all do it. The best of us keep trying to learn every day because that's the only way you keep getting better. So there's no fault in watching stuff. You just got to also do. You got to do, but you got to learn. You got to learn and do. You got to find time for both. You guys got this. Piece of cake. All right? Talk to you soon. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. By the way, please like and subscribe. See more videos coming at you. Otherwise, you may never see me again. And that would be an awful thing. You don't want to do that. Anyway, I'll see you later. Take it easy.